Angie, we're going to start with you. There's a lot of conversation around AI, and is this a revolutionary technology? Is it an evolution over time? And how it's going to really affect everyone's business. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think I shared that yesterday. So AI is not new. I said yesterday, AI was termed in 1956, way before I was born. So I don't ask your ages, but 1966 was when chatbot was coined. So AI has evolved. But what is mostly important is we should not jump to AI just because it's cool. Generative AI is cool. It should be part of your business. It should be part of your DNA. AI is an outcome of great data. AI is an outcome of curious mindset. AI is an outcome of how you approach problem solving. If an organization doesn't have these right, jumping on the next AI will not make any sense. So if you look at this way, generative AI sounds very cool. The GPU needed and the data sets needed to actually make generative AI work is massive. So as a MSP or a channel partner, don't run behind it. So think of a business case, go small, make AI as agile intelligence, learn from your data, and really focus on experience, not automation. That is what. So I said yesterday that don't fear AI, but cheer AI.
Yeah,
that's how we should look
finding
at
more
it.
small ways of building it into your daily practice versus having to, take it into the entirety of your
Absolutely.
business. What do you believe is driving some of the demand for AI today? What are you seeing out in the market, and how is that differ than a couple years ago?
So the difference is that all of us are using AI without knowing it. It's a part of our life. We wake up with AI, go to bed with AI, use AI in consumer tech. The person sitting next to you is, doing something that influences what you are doing. That is AI. But the more we think about AI to resist AI, it's not going to happen. So what has happened is, with the evolution of tech, with the evolution of platforms, the ease of access to cloud and building new business models, what has shifted is the thought process and mindset. Before, you would not go and live in a stranger's house. Today, because of the platform and AI, you go and take Airbnb without knowing them ever. So what has happened is the humans have approached to live with AI and the mindset. Now, what has pushed us is the businesses, the digital native companies are using AI to an extent that the traditional companies are thinking, okay, we also do not want to miss out. We have to be ahead of the curve. We have to use it for our business creation, generate value. That's the whole point, and that is what is driving the more need. The biggest mistake we can make is jumping on something shiny without understanding the business value. First, get your back office right, data right. Make sure your ERPs are harmonized to a common data. Make sure you have clean data, APIs. Otherwise, you can work on the best AI for PR, but it's not going to be for anything else.
Absolutely. And Madison, I want to ask you, similar question, because IBM has been known as an AI provider for so long, and even on Sanjeev's charts yesterday talked about the Watson experience and Watson beating Jeopardy and winning Jeopardy. What is IBM doing, and what are you seeing as some of the demand drivers for our business partners that they should be thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Really good question. So I agree with everything that Sanjeev said, and AI is definitely not new, right? We've been productizing things around natural language processing, machine learning techniques, deep learning techniques as things have evolved. We've been doing this and had products that people consume since the 1980s, right? I would tell you that I think the fundamental change in what we're seeing with generative AI, right, is really a newfound way to create and deploy it. When you think about traditional AI methodologies, which required lots of people to gather lots of data, to annotate it, to label it, and now you sort of, go forward and say, all right, I have a foundation model, or what I like to consider as a starter kit to get going. You can actually do experimentation with AI much more quickly now than you were able to do it before. And I think that provides a lot of opportunities to enterprises. I also agree with Sanjeev in what he said, in that you use AI every day, whether you know you're using it or not. And there's a whole lot of consumer-based tech. I think the opportunity that we have for, partners and for where we really see opportunity is we're very focused on AI for business. And that means, back to what Sanjeev said about the data, you have to have a trusted data foundation. But that also means that the AI that IBM builds and what we productize, we're going to focus on enterprise-oriented use cases. It means that when we build a foundation model, we'll have language data, we'll have code data, we'll have tabular data, business data. We're probably not going to focus a whole lot on consumer-driven experiences. Now, I think when you look at consumer-driven things, like everybody, if I asked you to raise your hand who has the ChatGPT app on your phone, don't lie, because I know all of you would raise your hand, except for me, because I'm not allowed to do that, right, because I work for IBM. But ChatGPT actually was a very monumental moment in the market, right? It really actually, I would say, turbocharged what people saw in technology that IBM's had for 6-7 years that we've been deploying in the enterprise. People finally realize the power and the value of what comes from that, right? But I'll tell you, I think a big opportunity for partners today, right, to sort of summarize a little bit what Sanjeev said, I see a lot of people in the generative AI space really focused on model selection, vast experimentation. They're focused on, pretty sort of traditional use cases around, how do I make faster summaries? How do I do things like retrieval augmented generation? How do I do content generation? Because everybody's enamored that AI can write you an essay, right? But at the same time, I think the model selection process of what AI you're using is really important. But equivocally important is looking at some of the non-functional elements around governance, around ethics, around trust, around transparency. How do you put guardrails around this type of technology that you're using? And partners and technology firms like IBM, we have a big opportunity to shepherd our clients in the right way to do this. Equivocally important is the relationship between the cost that you spend to run these models and the impact that it makes for your organization. So it's really not good enough to just experiment because you think something's cool or it has the shiny object phenomenon, as Sanjeev referred to. I think we have a big opportunity to guide our clients through a process that says, how do we help you understand what do you have the data to do today? What data exists in the right state? What is least complex, but what's actually going to generate the most value for your business? And oh, by the way, you might not want to use a model that's like 175 billion parameters big because it's going to cost you, $3 million a day to do summaries for your employees on 4 30-minute meetings. Like, are you really going to get the maximum value out of something like that? Or would a different model, would a different use case actually serve a better purpose? And so I think these are the things that people are really starting to think about in more detail, but also struggling with today. And so we have an opportunity to be leaders and really guide them through that.
It's a great segue to talk to the partners and ask you guys, how are you applying this in your business? What's the business case that you're making inside for using AI in your business and for the street, for talking to your customers about AI and how they can use AI to their advantage? So I know you have several use cases, Hans, that we've talked about. If you'd like to use names or not use names of your clientele, because they've got some very big clientele everyone's developed there. But give us some examples of how the use cases work and how that conversation goes, and then we can just trickle into those.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really interesting whenever you kind of look at the new landscape. As my two counterparts have already expressed, AI has been around a long time, but I think the big change with AI, not just with ChatGPT, I think what happened is that the technology has been democratized, so it's being handed to the end user. So no longer do you need an IT person or a very technical person or a data scientist actually to deploy this type of technology. It's being handed to the end users. So if you look at what the business needs and how the end user can best be able to adapt this technology to what they do to get value out of it, we've got a couple clients. One I'll bring up, and unfortunately I cannot mention their name. But looking at my job is to go in and look at the art of the possible, and then take the possibilities and apply those to the business. AI is a better tool to do that. And you hand that to the end user to allow them to do their job better. And the other fulcrum of AI that I don't think has been discussed is that AI is outcome based. So the first question you ask is, what problem am I solving, and what outcome am I trying to drive to? So our client that is a publicly traded company, they brought in us to help them facilitate a process to drive forecast accuracy on an annual basis by 1%. Okay, think about that. Publicly traded company, multi-billion-dollar national or international conglomerate, 1% forecast accuracy. That 1% forecast accuracy using AI to do scenario analysis to go from a feasible option to an optimal option created billions of dollars in market capitalization. So the better they got at that, the more they honed their skill. When they went to Wall Street and said, our forecast for sales and revenue and everything else that we're being measured on is within 1% of what they told the street, their market cap increased by billions of dollars. That's the power of how you apply this technology in the real world. That's our charter when we actually interact with our client. Take the art of the possible, take the possible, and then implement that so that it has real, tangible, quantifiable value.
Yeah, I'm going to confess. I'm the guy who runs after bright, shiny stuff.
And cars, right? Shiny cars as well.
So Sanjeev, just to catch up with the conversations on both ends, I see your conversation about data, and I raise you technology, right? So it's this confluence of technology and data that's rapidly propelling us, is why we're now talking about this famous combination of two letters in the vowel in English language. From the data point of view, an oil company it was infamous, and that was was it the BP, the British Petroleum Gulf Oil, was the first time we actually saw large volumes of data come across. And that was the first use of data that they were gathering mainly to save themselves for governance and compliance. And they were measuring tides and oil spills and currents. And that same large volume of data was then given to the local fishermen, not only to appease them, but to help them fish and troll and everything better. And that was the first multiple use, at least I claim that, of large volumes of data. And I feel that the genesis of AI, yes, Sanjeev says it's been around for 1956, and 1956 is a little closer to me than you. But that's
I was
AI.
57.
57, okay. So he's absolutely right. It's data and technology coming together, right? You talked about 175 billion parameters. Was the case, right? This was ChatGPT 3.5. We're rapidly propelling ourselves forward. To come to the case of, use case today and what are our customers doing, I'm firmly driven by what our customers need, and we're a cybersecurity company. And so that's where we go. For me, when we go and we interact with customers, because I believe that's the question, if I'm going to simplify this, it's Napster meets Y2K, okay? And I'm dating myself. I was going to say LimeWire, but here's what we're finding on the cybersecurity side of things. There's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, much like when the ball dropped at the start of the century, right? What am I missing out? You remember that? You remember that feeding frenzy? Same thing here. Do I need it? Do I not? Well, it's here. We're in it. We're right in the middle of it. And what we're finding is that the example I gave yesterday at the Mastermind Lead Summit was HR departments in a hurry to write hiring letters or termination letters are putting employee names and dates of joining up there and saying, hey, can you spit out information? Now, the giants in the business are saying obfuscate, meaning stop ChatGPT. You said it first, not me, right? Let's not use it. But guess what happens when you tell the end customer, no, don't use it? What's the first thing they're going to do? Go try to get it on their home computers. And so we're trying different technologies. We're saying anonymize. We're saying, look, go take Hans and Sam and Sanjeev and put their dates of joining and the big raises that they're going to get. But let's take it out, take their names out and put in John, Jim, and Jane. And let's take 1977 and replace it with some other date as date of birth. And then let's go out and let ChatGPT and all the AI stuff do their thing, bring it back, replace it with the original data, and give it to you. So those are the technology solutions we're looking at. Our biggest concern, if I may leave this out for you, are two things when it comes to customers and AI. Can they accept the fact that, much like the cloud movement, cloud's been around, right? It's a bunch of computers next door in a huge warehouse. Literally, it's not up there until Amazon starts distributing stuff from the, right? Great, exactly, right? And so AI is here, live with it, use it, and move forward. So that's basically, so our areas of concern One is that they know that it's here to stay. We do know, and I'm letting this out earlier than Sanjeev will probably announce it, but quantum computing is going to be commercialized soon. And then this conversation is going to be looking like a little, the teacup ride at Disneyland, if we think we're moving forward fast, right? So that's one of our primary concerns. Thank you.
The teacup ride at Disneyland seems appropriate now that
Is that a good handoff?
Hello. Welcome.
Sam's in Florida, so I was referencing Disney, and Sam's had a very well established.
Oh,
practice
the
for-
other Disney.
Yes, the other Disney.
So it's a pleasure to meet everyone. And wow, you guys all spoke about some pretty great points. So there's a term that the hyperscalers use, which is well-architected framework. And this term is synonymous for the proper pillars of success to actually deploy into cloud. They're the baseline governance of how to do cloud correctly. So in order to understand where AI belongs, you almost have to do a very similar use case or study of how and where to place that scenario. Because like well architecture, you've got areas of security, networking. You've got regenerative AI that's going to actually solve a problem for you logically. You've got scenarios where data normalization can be used in a way that actually helps you present data that much better. So I challenge everyone who's going to try to build an AI practice to think through that architecture dynamic and pick an area that their business is good at. And I think that's the value for the partners, because if you cannot find that value and you can't operationalize it, then AI is going to miss its mark, ideally. So my 2 cents on that matter.
Awesome. So Sanjeev, I think you may have been to Vegas once or twice before. There's a big battle going on right now between AI and HI, the human intelligence factor. Who are you placing your bets on, and how is that battle going?
So it's interesting, like machines and humans needs to work together. We cannot have machines be better without human interaction, because even if you look at self-learning in machine learning, the more you train the model, the more the model becomes better. Who trains the model is we take inputs. Let's say I want to use AI for a sales model. It gets recommendations, I upvote, downvote, the machine learns, so human interaction. And machines makes humans better. So today we just sit and use AI. Why? Because we use our apps, we look at everything. Imagine you have to go and browse every single million movies in Netflix. Oh my God. So what you do is it uses AI to give you recommendations. You love watching the movies and do that. The difference between AI and HI is 2 things. One, sometimes we forget that AI is human intelligence at scale and mimicking that. But many times when we think about AI, we think automation. Oh my God, it'll take away our jobs. I gave the example yesterday. 2018, everyone's talking about self-driving trucks. We had Tesla driving on his car on his own. No more truck drivers need. I was in logistics that time. A few days ago, I wake up, big ads. Truck drivers needed. Extra bonus. Has truck drivers disappeared? No. So the first difference is we have to think AI, not just automation. It's experience. And how do you create the experience? The employees and humans make the experience better by learning. AI, your neural network will sometimes think me as a cat. Why? Because it's very goatee and all. It doesn't process that way. But I have to tell him, you know what? You are not a cat. You are a human. You're not a robot. So it requires interaction. So my point is very simple. People will remain. Jobs don't go away, but the jobs will be different. At the same time, if we as humans have the mindset that we don't want to look into something new and use it for our best advantage, we don't have a progressive mindset, we don't have the mindset to focus on the art of possible or take some risks, we will fall behind, because there are some segment of humans who don't know what they don't know, and most dangerous are they think they know what they don't know. And that is the difference. So people who will be in the jobs with HI are the people who can look at technology, use it to their advantage, and not. So I'll conclude by saying, take an example. A few years ago, I was in trading. One of our customers was a 90-year-old person. I said, he was having a problem. I said, can you give me a screenshot? So he took his camera out, Kodak SLX, and took a picture of the laptop and gave me a screenshot. The same person right now, he's still alive. I actually use my app, use mobile phones, book Ubers. What has changed? The only thing changes that your mind has changed to use technology. That is AI and HI. They will not go away. AI and HI will exist together, make each other better. So humans and machines, will work together.
And to some extent, HI will lead AI. They're
Yeah.
together. And I feel that the magic happens where human intelligence, artificial intelligence, and big data meet, at least in the short term. Right?
Absolutely.
It's this guy and the large volumes of data and the technology that you're driving that's going to create the magic.
Absolutely.
There's a process, if you've ever done an international banking transfer, it's a KYC process. You need to know your customer to validate the identity. So going back to that same bucket conversation that we talked about, if you know your person or you do a KYC on the identity and you know your data, now you actually have a functional use case to build up. Now you have to basically talk about perceived outcome of what this AI engine is going to do for the actual customer or your business. So, speaking from a partner's perspective, know your data, know your customers, figure out the problems that they have. Regenerative AI, I think, is a great opportunity, but it's just, it's too wide and too vague. It's not going to basically solve the problem. Building an operational plan that's actually going to drive success for that customer using AI, that's how we end up getting paid and making some money around this thing.
Yeah, I just want to add one small bucket. We talk about generative AI. What is the foundation of Gen AI? That's LLM, right? Large language models. If you want to today have an open source LLM, it's not matured. At the same time, to make LLM work, you need massive data sets and it's expensive. Now, if you buy the LLM service APIs like Google or anybody, who does Google have working with? Like NVIDIA. Why? Because there's a GPU war going on right now. So while it is fancy, by the way, ChatGPT is cached to data 2 years back, if you know that, it's 2021. So the idea, what you said is very simple, is that you have to understand how much you can bite to chew. So learn more from the data that is help your business. Some of the organizations are fighting about, I have so many ERPs, I cannot really manage my footprint, and then talk about, but let's use ChatGPT. That's the disconnect.
So I'm going to add just a couple elements from a technology perspective here, and also for those of you that are taking notes, I think maybe definition of some of these terms is really important, right? A foundation model is simply a really, really big model that uses some element of unsupervised learning. It was a term coined by Stanford, right? And a large language model that has been set up here is simply a derivative of a type of foundation model that deals with language, right? That deals with language data. And there's a lot of mature large language models out in the space today, right? From a dialogue and a speech and a natural language point of view, there's technology that's been around in this space for some time. And there are lots of different, services. There's actually hundreds, thousands of different foundation models that you can go peruse through and use today, right? A couple unique things, though, when it comes to business and enterprise, right, that I think are really important to keep in mind in this space. I agree with everything that everybody said on you got to have a plan, right, to put this stuff to use. And 99% of what's deployed in enterprise today is from traditional AI techniques, right? So we're sort of in this new frontier. But remember the story that everybody told about 15 years ago where you went into every client and people were like, data is your competitive advantage. Like it's the competitive, like you need data, right? You need more data. You need to get your data estate in motion. Like, well, we have reached it, folks. Like we're at the frontier, right? Data is going to be people's competitive advantage because if you think about these foundation models that are out there, like for example, IBM has had a very sound strategy in that we appreciate and value the vibrance and creativity of the open source community. And so you will find IBM foundation models in our platform as you will find select open source models in our platform, but note the word select. Why is that? Because before they're really ready for enterprise use, we also believe there's an element of curation and due diligence that needs to be done on that model to figure out, does it stack up with things like regulatory compliance measures? Is there, abusive or hateful content that model was trained on that an enterprise couldn't really tolerate generating an output from, right? We believe that we ought to go through and look at some of those things before we put a business on our platform to use these elements. But really, the only way to solve that for a business and for them to get the ultimate advantage, which I believe the ultimate advantage with generative AI is going to be people eventually taking a foundation model, training it and tuning it with lots of their own data, and eventually monetizing that data. Like that's where the frontier of this whole thing is going to go. So people can develop revenue generating elements off of what they're creating with this technology. But you guys brought up an important point around like what's preventing people from taking advantage of many of these new techniques now versus all of the traditional AI elements that are out there. And it is things around ethics. It's things around bias, trust, misuse or misalignment of the information. It's things like hallucination or the concept that one of these models, if it's on too wide of a domain, it'll keep giving you an answer, but how do you tell that it's the right answer, right? The only way to do that is by using the logic and reasoning of these models and the technology that's been built, but also pairing it up with your data and having the appropriate guardrails and governance framework around it, right? And so when we talk about the difference between human intelligence and AI, we've had a perspective for a long time, a very public one, that you know, we often look at AI or artificial intelligence as being augmented intelligence because what these folks said is true. We've got to focus on business frameworks in which a very, very technical user and domain expert alike can collaborate and operate in the same platform. The AI has to be tuned, it has to be trained. It may not always be super efficient for me as a domain expert to go tell Hans, the data scientist, exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. Why can't we work in the same platform, right? And do some lightweight tuning, have some lightweight feedback mechanisms involved. And I think we've made a lot of progress from a technology perspective in the market as a whole in bringing those types of things to bear. And I think it will be able to accelerate how enterprises and businesses are able to take advantage of some of this tech.
Fantastic. And so we've talked through a little bit of the security. We haven't double clicked too far into it, but I do want to get to the experience because experience has been a big theme here and how AI does change the experience, like what we can learn from that. So I can open it up to the panel. If there's someone in particular, I know Sanjeev, you definitely have an angle on that if you want to jump in first, about the experience and how AI impacts the experience.
Absolutely. So let's take a simple example. In distribution, I'm a channel partner, I log in. Does the platform tune and customize to what I need and read my mind and have a customized, personalized version of the platform? How do you do that? That's AI. I mean, you segment your customers, have your data, optimize your experience and do that. Second example, distribution is a very pull forward model, right? You have a line card, you go and pull information and you do that. How do you go to a push model like an Amazon or any others? Like, okay, you know that you bought this, so you'll also buy this. This product can be bundled with ABC, or this is a good solution, or others are buying this. So I want to know that information instantly, or I'm about my attach rate, like I have a hardware, I want to have a warranty immediately coming up to the AI to it. How do you do that? That's AI. I don't care about which model we use. Today we have lots of models we use in Xvantage. But the idea is the experience. You start with the experience and work reverse engineer backwards. And what you do is, you have to understand that the biggest killer of any new thing is perfection. Perfection is the biggest enemy for us to innovate. So the first thing is, experience, yeah, it's almost works, but it makes human interaction makes it a little better. So my theory is very simple. Like we talk about digital transformation, AI technology, 80% of them fail. 80%. It's all shiny PR. But what to succeed is we have to think about experience first and automation follows. And that's where AI is powerful. Small use cases, iterate, learn, and improve. Feedback, that's AI to me. Agile intelligence, not artificial intelligence.
We had conversations around this when we were talking about, everything that you've got going on in your marketing side and how it's changed the experience, though, for you and your customers and the conversations you're having with your customers. Could you, lifting off of what Sanjeev just laid out for us?
Yeah, it's really interesting because just coming out of the last session with Tiffany Bova and talking about customer experience and employee experience, there's a lot of discipline that needs to take place, otherwise AI won't work. And she hit upon some of those, and you know, I think in general, what we see with our clients was a point that she made on one of her slides that says, you know, systems are outdated, and also to focus on the process. If you don't do these things, you don't have the fundamentals, and we've already talked about data. You've got to have a good data set. It's got to be clean. It's got to be accurate. It's got to have the right data in it. Right? That's a given. Right? Every company's a data company now. That's a given. What AI has done now is that prior to ChatGPT and prior to the hype cycle, AI was a choice. It's no longer a choice. It's a requirement. So how do I take this new requirement to do business and implement it within my company? And when I look at my organization, Tiffany also brought up, sometimes you have executives that are looking for output, but they never touch the tools. And I can tell you stories from our clients to where the focus in their respective departments, they're working till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to produce the reports for their senior executives for their board meetings. What AI and a lot of these tools allow them to do now is that collaborative engine of, I've got a very, very sophisticated tool that can actually address a very, very complex problem. My only constraint now is processing. The GPUs, quantum computing, you know, are addressing some of that. So how do I take this very, very good, you know, tool that's going to provide me the outcome that I'm looking for to solve this particular problem? And it's really, if you have to span the entire spectrum of what I'm trying to accomplish as a business, and you've got to have the discipline on the front end. And I heard the term the other day, AI is kind of like icing on the cake. So in order to produce those board books, you know, within a few minutes rather than a few weeks, there's a lot of collaboration and process improvement that needs to take place internally within the organization. So we have to ensure the data is there. We have to ensure the process is there. And you got to have buy-in across the entire organization, from the executive all the way down to the lowest level. And there's got to be that collaboration, as Madison had talked about, same platform. I've got my technical folks that understand and can tune the engine to put in the right data, and I've got my line of business folks that can take these tools to be able to produce the right output in order to create that value that everybody's trying to get to. And I think really the last thing I'll leave everybody with is that another theme that's been taking place here, and also it's great because it kind of validates how we approach things as well. It's incremental. You don't want to go in there and boil the ocean. Once folks understand what the technology can do and what it's capable of doing, all of a sudden the requirements for what they want, the output they want, goes from this to this. You take incremental evolutionary steps, you go in there, you test it, you ensure that it's providing the right output, and then you slowly start growing it from there. You train the folks, you go in and you hone and refine the process, and pretty soon that value equation just grows over a period of time.
For me, basically, you know, user experience is a question on the table, right? And again, I'm going to date myself. The days of putting a little pencil in and rotating the cassette tape to where you wanted it to be. And millennials today are walking into the room and saying, hey, play me my favorite song. I challenge that, you know, with this use of technology, someone's going to tell me you feel like listening to this song, right? Just based on, you know, heartbeat and the mood and my location.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen. So that's one in terms of experience, and I'll circle back to that in a minute. I'm quite the contrarian when it comes to data, and I'm sitting at the wrong place, and I'm on the record in this. But you know, what if we took data out of the equation? You know, the U.S. government's opening up these large volumes of data for public use. California, my home state, don't judge me, is now saying, hey, you know, all of you bidding again for California state business, you can go in and search by location, by product, what and which department bought this product. And it's a beautiful thing. Everyone wins. If you want to still stay in the game and you don't want to do business at 0.01%, go develop AI and sell it and make some money, right? So I urge and request the Googles and IBMs of the world, like saying, hey, look, you know what? Data is available. God only knows that, you know, a certain large bad actor today has 22 million security records of ours, including my retina and fingerprints, and no one really talks about it, right? So yes, in the short term, there's this rush for data, but I am an optimist, and I feel that the more we have this data available for public consumption, the better we'll do as a global citizenry. The last thing I want to bring on in terms of experiences, I'm going to pick New York because good and bad things happen in New York. There's a guy that wakes up in the morning, looks at his newspaper and says, hey, it's going to be raining at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So let me go down, let me pick up a few cheap umbrellas at $2 a pop and show up at Times Square where the unsuspecting tourists are. And there he is, $10 an umbrella, right? Well, what's happening today? Again, I'm going to pick up on the millennials, and I'm going to talk fast in the interest of time. On their iPhone pops up, iPhone, did I say iPhone? Okay, Samsung, Android, whatever. That is going to rain at 3 o'clock. They hit another button, and that Amazon portal from the sky drops your favorite purple polka dot umbrella for you at Times Square, right? This is where we're heading fast in terms of experiences. So I challenge two basic tenets. We really have to be at the right place at the right time, with the right product, economics 101. And the second one is, in sales, we're told, you can't get it faster and cheaper and better. You have to give up one of three. And I don't think so. I think you can get it better, faster, and cheaper as these experiences and these technological leaps happen. Over to you.
Thank you. You picked two tough states, by the way. There is a term called Maya, M-A-Y-A. It stands for most advanced yet accepted. There's a serial marketeer in the early 1900s who basically coined this term and said, if you can't sell it to a fourth grader, you can't sell it at all. And that's really, I think, what we're talking about, a functional use case where AI just works and is easy and actually makes sense. So, without going too deep into the approach, there's a couple of other things I just wanted to kind of nail out in terms of the audience here, meaning all the partners. So through our communities, we always talk and get together on a quarterly basis about how to make our businesses more effective and profitable. That's our goal as a partner. And the traditional rule of thumb is for every resource you have, that person has to generate about 2.5 times their cost and value for the business. That's the kind of rule of thumb for our space. And that resource on average can handle probably up to 10 customers because there's 10 clicks to do here, 10 clicks to do there, etc. The automation for that resource would actually enable them to put on more customers if they actually can do process automation for that business. So now one technical individual can handle maybe 13 accounts or 14 accounts. So there's a lot of ways to unpack this whole process automation piece of it, but I think the Maya term, if you just keep that in the back of your mind as you're thinking through use cases, really simplifies a whole lot.
Hey, Sam, staying with you, there's your trusted MSP. You've got a lot of clients that are looking for you. Where are you seeing some demand or some opportunities starting to get identified around using AI for your business?
There's a particular use case for a California company, by the way, in healthcare. Talking about data means understanding the source of truth, right? The source of truth has to be normalized and has to be clean, so that way the AI can come in there and actually present that outcome properly. So in the scenario where this particular instance, private equity bought up a bunch of these locations, they had multiple sources of truth, and there was no executive dashboard leadership in terms of the data or the financials. So we took all this data, we actually put it into call it a data warehouse or a data lake, normalized it properly, and now we're running actual AI algorithms against the data across all of the sources of truth. But now they're in one. So healthcare, I think you're going to find a big uptick on that use case. And anyone who deals with data in general, I mean, ideally, that's the bucket, big or small. I mean, there's a ton of partners here today, and they're going to come across these data opportunities almost on a weekly basis at this point. So once they know how to operationalize it, I think they're going to have tremendous success behind it.
Yeah. Sanjeev, any other verticals or market opportunities that you're seeing AI really take off in?
I think the market is pretty big for AI, right? Which is that what the interesting part is we talked about the data that is interesting, but I think we have to start getting AI into design thinking. If AI is a silo and not mainstream, it will not work, right? So think about how you define your customer experience. Think about how you define employee experience and have all those use cases. Then think about the most complicated business results you want to achieve. And then become like Tinder. You have to match them left or right swipe and have some problems there using AI. So take some opportunities. The AI creates opportunities. The business is where we are. How do you leverage them to grow? And it is applicable to any business today. You do not have to limit yourself for data. You can also use AI on experience. Same time, I talked about yesterday that AI is incremental. It's imperfectly perfect. Just like us. I'm imperfectly imperfect, but AI is imperfectly perfect. So incrementally, you have to make it learn better. And that's how the customers want today. They don't want everything perfect. You don't want the perfect recommendations on Netflix. You want to learn incrementally. And what I'm seeing is that the more you earn their trust, there is one big thing difference here. Let's talk about the channel. Before we thought talking to a person is my relationship with the company. Anybody negotiates the price with Amazon? Oh, I didn't like this.
Successfully, no.
I do in my head, I never win though.
Yeah. Anybody talks to a Uber, say, you know what, can you please change? No. But you have an amazing relationship with them. How? The trust, reliability, connection can be powered by a platform powered by AI. That is a new norm. The norm is how AI can mimic HI and relationship and connection. Because people thought, oh, it's all machines. I need to talk to somebody. Our kids even don't talk to people. They use apps, But that's where I see the opportunity is huge.
Sanjeev, you had me at Tinder. Imagine Tinder picking up and telling someone
To match with you?
he or she is the one.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's
You're determined to get Tinder and
I'm staying away from both of these two.
Well,
I'm telling you.
I said yesterday that like humans will marry robots legally by 2050. So we are going there. Tinder matches you robots. So
Sam, over to
and you
you.
don't even get in trouble with your spouse to go to robots.
I just had a follow-up question for Sanjeev actually.
Yeah.
Yesterday you put a screen on main stage about AI basically heading to about 2 billion in top line revenue by 2030.
2 trillion.
2 trillion, sorry,
Yeah.
right? And so far there's about $100+ billion generated.
136 billion.
So as a partner who has a practice but still looking to expand, and others who are starting to build stuff up, I would actually love to hear your perspective of how they should exercise their right to use AI through Ingram's perspective as well, because I
Yeah.
think that's a powerful statement.
So there are two ways to do that, right? So today, if you have a channel partner, you go to your customers, you are generally doing a lot of fulfillment and tell me what technology you want. If you reverse engineer and say, you know what, today the possibility is infinite. Tell me what are the problems you are solving. Take the few big problems, okay, that they want to solve, which needs outcome. And then build AI cannot work in isolation. AI needs data, it needs cloud, it needs security, it needs aggregation, it needs hardware, software. It's not isolation. But you switch to an AI first mentality to solve problems with the power. Then what you do is you become a problem solver and a partner who is actually showing them to leapfrog competition. Because keep in mind, most of the organizations struggle from performance gaps or opportunity gaps, right? Performance gap is easy to fix. You cut OPEX, optimize. But more than 50% of the Fortune 500 disappeared in the last 20 years because they couldn't figure out how the market is moving. They always want to leapfrog. So if you approach with your customers, say, you know what, let's do design thinking together. Let's do problem solving together. These are the comprehensive things we can do. And then you go back and create solutions with Ingram Micro, for example, or Xvantage or anywhere. Then you have the art of possibility at what solution meet together. How are we doing that? Even in our platform is eventually we want to bring all the vendors to the platform and use machine learning to combine and build bundles and solutions in verticals and give it in your hands. So then what? I know a solution that will work for you. That is how it will grow. Because keep in mind, the 2 trillion is not just AI. It's AI first and technology second. That is the spend. That is the opportunity.
bundling security.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go to point of interest for me personally. Like
Yeah.
MFA today, right? All of us in the room, have cards and CAC cards and PIV cards that validate us at one point in time when you're walking in the front door. But once you're in, no one really says, "Oh no, don't go open the medicine closet in the guest bathroom," right? It's a free for all in our enterprises as well. And while the governance exists, like zero trust architecture says, there has to be continuous monitoring. It's rare ecosystem that companies continuously monitor. So take MFA, right? We get all these dings on our phones. There's like 7 dozen of them saying, here is the code. And by the way, my pet peeve is trying to figure this out on a plane on a $37 Wi-Fi when it dings my phone and I'm trying to log in here for another session. MFA itself is challenging, subject to man-in-the-middle attacks.
Yeah.
And our next generations are saying, why do I have to put a Post-it with a 20-character, I am joking, password on the monitor? Why can't you just figure out who I am? And some of the technologies that we personally are launching and are successful is the speed, rhythm, and cadence of your typing can, to a high degree, identify who you are and let you into systems. And then every few seconds, literally, I did say seconds, as you exist on a corporate network, check and see who you are. So AI is helping build these security platforms. And you're right, a bundled approach to security is very appealing.
I don't want to digress too much because of time, but I'll just add one point to both of your point is, before, AI was the evolution of BI, right? And we thought it's only analytics. It's out of my transactional scope. So we used AI in the thought of OLAP and use that. Today, you need to use AI in your OLTP, which is transaction processing. That's where you get more real-time interactions, right? OLTP and OLAP is no separate anymore. That's what cloud has done. Point I was trying to make is that when you bring your AI to OLTP, then security comes in, your solutioning comes in, data comes in, speed comes in, accuracy comes in. It's all factored together. So why I was making the $2 trillion is you cannot have AI in isolation. You have to make it part of your DNA.
So something that's interesting, probably many of you don't realize, as a business owner, this term cash flow becomes really important to us. And having to use your own money to run your business at the end of the day is a very challenging one for a mid-tier company or even a under $1 billion company. And typically in the space of all the hyperscalers right now, the challenge is invoicing, believe it or not. One of the biggest challenges right now in our space is submitting your invoice and getting it paid by the customer before the receivables are actually due on that. And this is going to go back to AI and process automation. And the reason why these delays exist is because there's a lot of human involvement in the readiness of this invoice. So cash flow, keeping in mind by basically simplifying automation is another really great use case that partners can leverage and just pretty much get paid a bit faster. So that's something for you guys to
Put you
consider.
on the spot and ask you to talk about what Sanjeev just said. Yeah, we are. We've taken over. Is that okay with you? So,
we got like 2 minutes.
please, I want to end on a high note. So BI, right? I mean, this is something you live and breathe every day. Can you comment on I'm curious.
It is. Yeah, no states.
Oh, too late.
Well, Sanjeev kind of mentioned, you've got to bring AI into the transaction as well. The other part of it is, looking at the low-hanging fruit, where are the opportunities? You also made the comment, I think, in one of your presentations about bringing AI into automation. So from the world that I live in, a lot of times we look at data in multiple different places, and we have to build integration points to aggregate that data. And once you build those integration points, somebody on the other end gets that data and says, okay, great, I need to use this for queries, reports, dashboards, whatever. What happens is if they need additional data, they have to put in a request to IT. It takes about 2 weeks. They have it come back. And then they look at it. And once these integration points are defined, they're in place for years. Not weeks, years. So AI is an opportunity to go out and look at these integration points, automate that, use the intelligence of all the data that's sitting out there. Perhaps that end user should consider these other data points based on the analysis that they're doing and the output and the problem that they're trying to solve. And it's, I mean, low-hanging fruit, fundamentals, it's there today. It's there to walk in and, again, solve problems in terms of where can I build opportunities to go from feasible to optimal. How can I create data insights automatically from the artificial intelligence that will go in there and have me look at data that I wouldn't normally look at because it requires that human interaction, and then be able to provide the output that provides value to my company that creates that, multi-billion dollars in market cap.
I guess maybe just ending here on a little bit of a practical note, right? So the question was also around where is this stuff being applied? So we've been building technology and applying it in places and partnering with many folks like Hans to do it for many years. But there's very, very mature AI technology today in a couple different areas, right? When you think about what we call customer care, or when you think about customer experience, call center, contact center modernization, things around knowledge management and using very specific data and information to a business, how people are able to access that information and use it more quickly. These are all areas of rich opportunity. And they're areas that we know we can be successful in because the technology works. We've been at it for a while, but we also can draw a line from point A to point B on either productivity, savings, or revenue generation that comes from these use cases. I would say the second big pillar is all around what we would consider to be talent transformation or employee experience. You talked a lot about like the invoicing process. When you think about HR automation, I would encourage all of you guys to understand more about IBM's story. We're a 300,000 person company and we've reinvented ourselves several times, right? We definitely don't do cheese slicers anymore or barcode scanners. Like we're a hybrid cloud and AI company. But we drink our own champagne, I like to call it, right? We use AI in a lot of facets of our business. And HR has been a big journey for us, right? We started back in the 2016 timeframe with simple conversational AI, and we are at a place today where we all have a personalized help center. I can log into it on Slack, my mobile app, the web, I can call it, and it took our frontline HR support from about 700 people to about 25. The 675 individuals are now redeployed in our transformation and operations unit doing much higher value work, right? So there's absolute AI opportunity in this space. Thirdly, you guys all deal in technology every day, right? Think about things in the application modernization space. IT observability. How do you stop downtime of applications before it happens? Think about the opportunity in generative AI for code. Our own developers at IBM were using AI-driven applications to generate code, to explain code, right? To figure out vulnerabilities in code that they had. So this is also a big area, a relatively mature area in which people can start adopting these technologies yet today. So I would just encourage you guys to look at those three spaces because I think there's a lot of money to be made. And at the end of the day, AI is really just another story of data representations. Think about how much money people have made off of different elements of data representation over years. There's different businesses born out of different data representations that come out, and that's the opportunity ahead for us as well.
I just wanted to say you're absolutely right, especially on the ITSM governance side. Big opportunity for us. Thank you.
Open it up.
Sanjeev, you want to send us home with one closing statement that has nothing to do with Tinder, please?
I just said yesterday that the future is humans and machines with the right spirit. So be aggressively technical and amazingly human.
With that, thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.